The underdog boxer who saved the world, when fists triumph over magic. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 31. Money or Life. Yian closed his eyes. The giant sword comes with the strong wind. The sound of the sword was extremely harsh. Yian is highly focused, and he has accumulated energy for 1.5 seconds at this moment. There is the sound of swords and the sound of wind in my ears. Then, position, lock, and avoid. He turned his figure fiercely, took a big step forward, and punched out with a fist that had been charged for 2 seconds. Boom. There was a loud bang. Everyone was stunned. 2 seconds, 7 times the highest punch, one punch to kill the mad demon god instantly. On the rooftop, Li finally raised his head, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Did you see it wrong? He only charged up his strength for 2 seconds, and his strength nearly doubled? 5 times. Isn't that outrageous? What is the concept of 5 times? An average person may be able to lift a 100-pound barbell. What about 700 pounds? I don't dare to take another look, I don't even dare to think. Yian only needs 2 seconds to have 5 times the punch power. And his basic strength itself is high. Is that still a human fist? At this time, Yian waved his hand and turned to look at Shiduo. Shiduo's expression remained unchanged as he raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The originally disappearing demon god and the mad demon god appear again. The two demon gods continued to rush towards Yian. But at this time, Yian only had a smile on his face. Because he has already faintly stepped into the door of divine comedy. Relax, breathe, feel. The wind is coming. Let me go. Yian is like water, flowing in the ocean of gun intent and sword intent. The giant sword hits empty. Spear into the air. A perfect dodge, and a smile appeared on Yian's face. Shiduo is anxious. How could it miss? He quickly controlled the demon god to charge. It's so nice to come. The biggest disadvantage of fists is their short attack range. If you take the initiative to attack and the opponent retreats, it will be difficult to hit the opponent with your fist. But if the opponent takes the initiative to attack, with the blessing of strong inertia and his forward steps, the enemy's distance will definitely be within his attack range. The only problem is that you have to dodge the opponent's first shot. At this moment, the spear has arrived. Yian is holding fists with both hands and closing his eyes tightly. Coming. The tip of the spear thrust out, Yian stepped forward and dodged with a crouch, dodging the attack, closing the distance, and blasted out with a fist that had been charged for 2 seconds. The demon god was defeated once again. Then the mad demon god arrives. Yian repeated his old tricks. Crouch and dodge, dodge, step forward, straight punch. A hit is an instant kill. Shiduo's face turned pale and he asked in surprise, "What the hell? Did you miss it?" He never imagined this would be the case. Missed directly? So far he has never met Yian. And Yian is becoming more and more skillful. Okay. Shiduo's eyes were gloomy. I saw the demon general's pattern on his back shining again. But this time the two demon gods did not appear, but Shiduo's eyes, posture, and physical strength began to rise linearly. Are they combined? Yian frowned slightly. Finally, Shiduo's body expanded to 3 meters high, floating in the air, holding a spear and looking down at Yian. At this moment, the faces of some soldiers on the Great Wall became solemn. No spillage. He has perfectly inherited the speed, strength, spear spirit, marksmanship, and even the body of the two demon generals. This Shiduo is a fusion style, no wonder the demon god general has so few skills. He only needs to increase the basic strength of the demon god general and learn the combat skills by himself. Shiduo's voice became thicker, demonic energy bloomed all over his body, strong winds rolled up around him, and a strong sense of oppression came over him. He flicked the spear in his hand, looked down at Yian and said loudly, "This is my peak state. I hope you can still hide away." As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his spear and pointed it directly at Yian. But the next second, his face froze. Yian ignored him at all, closed his eyes, positioned his fists, and kept accumulating strength. The moment Shiduo transformed, Yian had already accumulated energy for 3 seconds. We can't let him continue to accumulate it. Shiduo shouted angrily, his figure suddenly rose, and he rushed straight towards him. The gun intent intertwined with the demonic energy. Wherever it passed, the earth cracked and the wind blew away the remaining clouds. Yian was still standing there, motionless, as if he didn't hear anything going on outside, completely immersed in his own world. Die! Shidwa roared. Everyone craned their necks. He was only 3 meters away from Yian. Spear out! The sound of gunfire was extremely harsh. Before it hit Yian, the skin on his eyebrows was already broken. At the same time, the veins on both Yian's charged arms were bulging and red. The fist that has been charged for 10 seconds is thrown out at this moment. Both fists were punched out at the same time, and the sound of the fists was like the roar of 2 giant dragons. Before his arm could be straightened, the ground beneath Yian's feet was shaken by a terrifying reaction force. This huge movement made Shi Duo's expression suddenly change. Just now, Yian hid all his fist power while accumulating strength. It wasn't until the moment he punched that the tip of the iceberg was revealed. But this already made Shi Duo's whole body feel chilly. He felt as if Yian's fist had turned into a mountain and was hitting him unreasonably. No guns. Gotta hide. He instinctively felt extremely scared and wanted to turn around and run away. But the powerful inertia brought by the charge just now prevented him from escaping. The next second, Yian smashed out his fists completely, and his fist power was in full bloom. Boom! The majestic white steam exploded at this moment, covering Shidwa's whole body. The ground 100 meters in front of Yian's fist collapsed in an instant. This terrifying destructive power made the humans on the Great Wall roar in shock. Fuck! This moment, the wind and sand at the border are rolling in and the dust is flying. 10 seconds. Nearly 20 times the supreme punch. No need to hit anyone at all. Just the force of the fist is enough to crush the enemy. Li He's eyes on the rooftop also became condensed. What? Infinite charge? It can still be like this. And what is accumulated is not the strength in the physical body, but the power of the fist. If it is physical power, the physical body will be shattered if it is not strong enough. The fist will not hurt the physical body. So in theory, as long as you give him enough time to accumulate power, he can kill any enemy with one punch. Do you still have this kind of talent? Li He was somewhat doubtful about life. Never seen it. It's not just him. Meng Chen was also dumbfounded. He only knew that Yian's second talent was a power charging type. But I didn't know he could accumulate power for so long and the multiplier was so high. After a few seconds, the fist power dissipated. Shidwa lay down in the bloody yellow sand, and the transformation effect disappeared. His eyes turned white, he was foaming at the mouth, and he had fainted. Yian is ready to step forward and end Shi Duo's life. Suddenly, his steps stopped because Meng Chen's voice sounded in his ears. The other party's elder proposed it. A 4th-level extraordinary elemental evolution fluid. A 4th-level extraordinary spiritual evolution fluid. A 4th-order extraordinary level physical evolution fluid. 500 copies of the 4th-order extraordinary source energy liquid. 500 copies of level for extraordinary martial artist herbal medicine. 500 copies of the 4th-order extraordinary electromagnetic source energy wave. Use these in exchange for Sido's life. What do you think? Meng Chen was floating in the dark clouds in the sky with an expressionless face, and standing in front of him was Shi Duo's father. The demon lord of the 9 realms, Saikilas. How will Yian decide? Want money? Or life? Episode 32. It's a pity that your son is dead. 3 seconds later. In both the human world and the demon world, whether it was the audience or the warriors, the whole place was completely silent. I saw Ghostface patting the black demon blood on his cloak and walking towards the 7th Great Wall. Behind him was Sido, whose head was blown into a ball of mud. Sky. Meng Chen looked at Shi Duo's father and said calmly, he has a bad temper. But it's also possible that your price isn't high enough. Anyway, it's a pity that your son is dead. Saikilas stared blankly at the corpse on the ground, his pupils suddenly turned scarlet. He turned his head sharply. Meng Chen also suddenly raised his hand and said calmly, your brother is no match for me. You want to touch me? Don't want your life? Saikilas took several deep breaths and finally released his fist. Black demonic blood overflowed from his palm. That was because he clenched his fist too hard and tore his skin. Meng Chen was too lazy to talk nonsense and left when he saw that he had no intention of taking action. The duel in the 9 realms cannot be completed in a short time, and every move will destroy the world. The 7th theater is too small, so there is no need for Meng Chen to take action. But at this time, Sykilas looked at Meng Chen's back, suddenly grinned, and said, Zido has a sister who is about the same level as your tribe. It's best not to let them meet. Meng Chen paused, lowered his head, and communicated mentally with Yan. Shi Duo's father threatens you, saying that Shi Duo has a sister who is of a similar level and will kill you if they meet her in the future. Yan shook his head and said, only one? Not enough. When Meng Chen heard this, he smiled rarely. He turned to Shi Duo's father and said, my people said that if you want to kill him, you must give birth to more children who are more useful than Shi Duo. One is not enough. After saying that, Meng Chen left without looking at Sykilas, who was about to become angry. He hadn't been in such a good mood for many years. Meng Chen is really happy. Others can't imagine how happy he is. The first reason is that in this battle, he clearly saw that Yan's second talent is incredible. If it really has unlimited power, it would really be infinite. The second is bloody. There are 2 types of warriors who are of high value to the human race. One is the extremely utilitarian, and human life can be converted into a price in their eyes. For example, myself. The other type is the extremely bloody person who doesn't care about wealth at all and doesn't weigh the pros and cons. He kills enemies as long as they are unreasonable and does not care about the consequences. He is extremely crazy and his philosophy in life is just one sentence, if I don't die today, you will die. Yan and Li He are like this. As an extremely utilitarian person, Meng Chen is very aware of how rotten people like him are. They are rotten to the core. They have no soul and no fun. Everything in the world is just a series of numbers. So he doesn't even like himself, he likes people who are completely opposite to himself. Then, Meng Chen came to the rooftop and stood next to Li He and asked, how is it? The future is promising. Li He responded calmly. Can't threaten you? What do you think? Li He asked. Yes. Meng Chen nodded slightly. It takes time for Yan to accumulate strength. At Li He's speed, Yan may not even be able to raise his fist, let alone accumulating strength. How do you describe this talent? Meng Chen sighed and looked down at Yan, who was walking back to the Great Wall. The upper limit is extremely high. The lower limit is extremely low. The key to everything is to accumulate strength. Gain strength when you succeed, and gain strength when you fail. Doesn't it have any other effect? The road lies at Yan's feet, he has to walk on his own. Meng Chen didn't think any more and prepared to leave with Li He, heading to the first Great Wall to meet with Zhang Demon Killer and the first general. But when he came back to his senses, Li He's figure had disappeared. Where have you gone? Meng Chen frowned. Below the Great Wall. Yan's way forward was blocked by Li He. The two looked at each other. Li He's face was expressionless, and his expression remained indifferent. Yan frowned. There was a kind of person in this world who would make people afraid just by standing there. They have gone through many hardships on the way forward in life, and their energy and spirit are extremely condensed, and they have a sense of domineering and oppression. Li He is this kind of person. I didn't feel this way at the city lord's mansion last time because Li He didn't look at him at all. This time, after Li Hezheng looked at him, Yan's heart began to shake slightly, a feeling of anxiety? Excited? A feeling that could not be described in words arose, making his eyes condensed. Is something wrong? Yan asked, neither his voice nor his expression was as casual as before, and he was very serious. Suddenly, the storage ring in Li He's hand flashed, and a paper ticket appeared. He threw it out casually, and the note shot out like a sharp sword, causing a slight sonic boom. Yan fiercely raised his hand to take it and looked down. Qualification ticket for the 5 Gods Ruins Charge competition. The prizes are extremely generous, and the competition is to see who can go further in the ruins of the 5 gods. This qualification coupon can actually be bought with military merit, and it is not expensive. But Yan understood that Li He threw this qualification ticket to him not to give him an opportunity or money, but as a kind of recognition for himself. He is saying that you are qualified to go to the place listed on this coupon. Dare you come? Yian chuckled, thinking of course he would go. He was looking up to say thank you when he was suddenly startled. He has disappeared. At this time, he discovered that 2 blood marks appeared on his palm. This made Yian even more solemn. Can he throw out a paper ticket with such lethality? It's terrible. Finally, Yian collected the qualification ticket and set foot on the Great Wall. Now, on the broad dark yellow city wall, many students had disbelief written all over their faces. Died? The demons just watch their great genius being killed? No one comes out to stop him? At this time, a veteran leaned against the city wall and said with a smile, "Little brat, haven't you heard of it? The 7th Great Wall is the smallest and is called the Cemetery of Geniuses. You said Shidwa wouldn't die. If Ghostface can really kill him, why not kill him? You said the other side has strong people, but we don't?" Some students wondered, then in the end, isn't it just who is stronger than someone else? The veteran said leisurely, "The most valuable thing in this world is called credit. It's what the demons say about superiority and inferiority, as well as life and death. But in the end, they sent a very powerful person to save us, and even beat us geniuses to death. All the heavens are watching this kind of thing. As long as the demons do this once, the credibility of their race will collapse. No one will discuss business or cooperation with someone who has no credibility. You dare to save people and kill people in public today, but tomorrow you dare to tear up the business contract. Is this the same truth? No one wants to do business with someone who is dishonest. It's going to result in a lot of wealth being lost. And this kind of loss is not just a loss for your race, it will also affect other races. After all, in the eyes of us outsiders, demons are just demons. There are so many categories, but all demons are the same. With this, a key question arises. Is life more important or money? Unfortunately, the resources of this world are limited. If everyone wants to share a piece of food, we must focus on the overall situation. So the answer is money matters. After all, your son's life is not my son's life. It's not okay for me to have no money because of your son. But the demons did a pretty good job on this matter. Kyle's died last night. Cito died today. None of them crossed the red line. But don't be happy too soon. Similarly, if Ghostface can't defeat the other party today, we won't save them. Everyone can only watch helplessly as he is beaten to death. As soon as the soldier finished speaking, he was slapped on the head by the squad leader and scolded, so he had to lower his head in frustration. The students present could no longer laugh, and only felt a strong sense of suffocation permeating their whole bodies. Death is so close to those geniuses? At this time, the Ghostface came from directly ahead. But everyone looked up at the fence of the beacon tower. The fairy in blue was leaning lazily. She held her hair and said to the Ghostface, "It's awesome." Ghostface glanced up, not knowing what the expression was under the mask. Then he looked at Lin Zhou among the students and said, "I have something to tell you. Come on." Episode 33. My talent is dreams. Lin Zhou was stunned. The classmates around him also looked at him, wondering what the mysterious Ghostface was doing with him. "Let's go." Ghostface snapped his fingers, turned around and walked towards the command room. Lin Zhou hurriedly followed. Ji Qing leaned on the fence and watched Yi and enter the door. She looked up at the sky and wondered what the clouds felt like, so she flew up. Yian entered the general command room and pointed to the position next to him. "Sit." Lin Zhou was a little cautious because Li Teng was also there. The old man nodded with a smile and said, "The strongest player in Tianshui High School this year is indeed Yushu Linfeng." Yi Anxin thought he was indeed an old man, and he said exactly what he said in the scene. But it's also useful. Lin Zhou smiled and took it seriously, not so nervous anymore. The two sat opposite each other. Yian didn't waste any time and just took off his mask. A familiar face appeared in front of Lin Zhou. Although he had already guessed it, he still couldn't help being surprised. "I want to tell you about the Super High School League." Lin Zhou quickly waved his hand and said, "You can just participate. By the way, do you remember? We have met before." "What?" Yian was confused. Then Lin Zhou talked about the situation that day. Yian thought about what happened 2 years ago. It's hard to make an impression. But he remembered. "That cheater is you. Ah. Lin Zhou's face froze in embarrassment. Suddenly, Lin Zhou coughed and said, Ghostface. Just call me Yian. Okay, brotherin. Lin Zhou said seriously, I didn't know you were Ghostface. If I knew, I would definitely not compete with you for that spot. After all, I know very well how powerful you are. How clear are you? Yian wondered. That's it, I read every news about you. You care about me so much? Yi Anxiao asked. Yes, because you are my savior. Lin Zhou lowered his head and said nervously. What he originally wanted to say was, because you are my hero. But this is too hard to say. Then, Lin Zhou quickly said, it's just that you may not understand why I am so persistent in participating in the league. I'm just going to be ranked among the top 5,000 students, despite all odds. Adding 20 points to my graduation score won't do much. But you don't know. Lin Zhou glanced out the window and said sadly, there is a flower garden in Tianshui High School, which is very beautiful. You've never been to school, so you can't understand my feelings about this high school. This is my alma mater and I love this place very, very much. Everyone is very nice to me. Teacher, classmates, lift me high. So I always hope to leave something behind for this alma mater. This school has never ranked above the top 10,000. I want to break a record. I want everyone to know that I am very grateful for everyone's care over the past 3 years. As the most powerful student, I will try my best to strive for the greatest honor for Tianshui High School. As he spoke, Lin Zhou still had tears in his eyes. He lowered his head and said with a slight choke, I'm just a little sorry. After saying that, he quickly wiped away his tears and said, thank you for saving me 2 years ago. I have nothing but respect for you. I'm sorry about what happened during the day. Sorry. After saying that, Lin Zhou stood up and bowed to Yian, saying, you are the hero that the human race needs. I never thought that such an outstanding talent like you would be so close to death. Some soldiers said that if you don't win today, no one will save you and you will die here. The mission you shoulder. Yian quickly interrupted Lin Zhou and said, okay. I asked you to come in because I have something to tell you. I haven't said a word and you've been talking a lot all by yourself. Sorry. Lin Zhou quickly lowered his head. Yian quickly said, I won't talk nonsense either. After you left during the day, I checked the rules of the Super League. The writing is very clear. You can choose another person to compete as a substitute, but the final reward remains unchanged. As long as one person loses, both contestants will be eliminated. I've asked the principal to sign you up. 5,000 strong. You said. You play the game ahead. After the 5,000 strong queen, let me take over. Ah. Lin Zhou was startled. Yian said calmly, the opponents in front are too weak and the entire schedule is too long. I don't have so much time to waste. Sign up today and the competition will start in 5 days. Remember to take your classmates and girlfriend to compete in the Divine Beast realm. Did you hear that clearly? If you don't know, ask the principal. After saying that, Yian raised his feet and left. Lin Zhou stayed on the spot. He knows the rule. But this rule has no meaning to Yian, but is harmful. Because if I lose, you will also be eliminated. Lin Zhou said quickly. Yian turned back and pointed at Lin Zhou with a smile, so don't lose. You tricked me once 2 years ago. Now let me see if you have made any progress. Lin Zhou couldn't believe it and said excitedly, what if? Eliminate. Yian didn't look back, opened the door and left calmly. Li Tang frowned and lowered his head to send the message using the star platform. Men must be steady. It's very unstable for you to do this. Yian replied, what is my talent? Dream, what's wrong? It's okay. Yian did not reply. Suddenly, Li Tang's body trembled, he looked up at Lin Zhou who was stunned, and asked, is it your dream to fight for Tianshui High School? Lin Zhou quickly turned around and said, well, it's something I've been looking forward to. Not counting participating in the competition, it's my dream to reach the top 5,000. It's great. Li Tang responded with a smile. Outside the door. Yian glanced at the entire Great Wall, frowning slightly. Where is Ji Qing? He looked to his right and there was none. At this time, a cute head appeared on his left side. Yian knew who it was as soon as the smell came out. He turned his head, and in an instant their eyes met, and their lips were 2 centimeters apart. Yian's heart skipped a beat and he couldn't help but swallow. Ji Qing also felt an itch in her heart, her eyebrows furrowed slightly, and she instinctively showed a little shyness. "Why are you silent?" Ji Qing lowered her head and said, "I'm floating." "I wanted to scare you, but I didn't." Yian touched her forehead, it was still around 35.5 degrees. "It seems that after reaching this level, it will be difficult to rise again." Suddenly, Ji Qing took his hand and asked, "Have you flown before?" Yian shook his head and said, "You can only jump, but you can't fly." "Who said that?" Ji Qing grinned, grabbed Yian and flew into the sky. "I just hit some clouds, it was so fun." Episode 34. Farewell. Yian was pulled to the sky by Ji Qing. The two held hands and shuttled through the sea of clouds. A white crane flew by. Ji Qing smiled and waved. Yian didn't notice Ji Qing's smile because he was also stunned. "Wow!" he roared and said, "Fly faster." "Okay." Ji Qing's internal energy was released, and her speed suddenly soared. The sea of clouds parted, and the strong wind roared in my ears. Yian raised his head and shouted, "Ascend." Ji Qing raised her head and flew towards the starry sky. After reaching a certain height, Yian laughed again and said, "Let go." Ji Qing let go. Yian landed vertically without any protective equipment. He had his eyes closed, and there was only a look of enjoyment on his face. On the way down, he knocked away all the wind and clouds. A whistling sound rings in my ears. Although he was descending, he felt that his soul was ascending. Ji Qing also glided over, looking at Yian who was feeling relaxed and smiling. Yian has a wonderful infectious energy. As long as he is smiling, the people around him will always be optimistic. Suddenly, Yian opened his eyes suddenly, feeling that he had a new understanding of the first form of the Divine Comedy. Lucky for him, he didn't deliberately think about martial arts just now, he was purely enjoying the joy of free fall. Unexpectedly, I realized it by accident. After landing, Yian immediately asked Ji Qing to attack him. "Attack me as fast as you can." Ji Qing nodded, and dense ice picks appeared behind him. As he pointed, the ice picks quickly stabbed Yian. "Boo-hoo!" Yian closed his eyes, feeling the wind pierced by the ice pick. Sudden. His figure began to sway rapidly, swaying from side to side, so fast that only an afterimage could be seen. A few seconds later, the ice picks came out. Yian stood there, spotless. Ji Qing was surprised and said, "You avoided them all?" "It's very easy." Yian couldn't help but smile. "Okay, let's go home." "Get ready, we are leaving Tianshui City." "Okay." Ji Qing nodded lightly. The two returned to their home in Tianshui City. Instead of going back to the room, he sat in the yard behind the wooden house. There are round tables and benches under the ancient Songtian tree, and Yian likes to sit here. Because there is sunshine, green leaves, green grass, red flowers and summer wind here. Now, there is another beauty. I saw Yian's eyes quickly scanning the star platform in his hand. He is buying training supplies. If you kill Shidwa, the human race will reward you with 1.2 million battle merit. Including his previous savings, the total is more than 3 million. Bottoming out in a few seconds. Fellow practitioners in the third realm eat too much money. After buying them all, it would only be enough for Yian to reach 3 realms and practice for a month at the same time. Far from reaching the middle stage of the 4th realm. You still have to find a way to make money. After finishing the purchase, Yian bought a ticket to Zhuke Domain. "Is it okay to leave tomorrow morning?" "I can do it at any time." Ji Qing nodded lightly. Then, Yian trained at home until evening. Midnight. The world is silent. Yian came to Grandpa's room. There are black and white photos of Grandpa, Grandma, Mom and Dad hanging here. 4 urns are placed in front of this simple ancestral hall. Yian burned 2 sticks of incense, bowed before the photo of the deceased, knelt down and kowtowed 3 times, and repeated it 3 times. It ends with 3 prayers and 9 kowtows. Yian said to himself, "Grandpa, Grandma, Mom and Dad, Anur is about to travel far away, you don't have to worry about me." The name Yian will definitely resound throughout the heavens, even if you are in another world, you will definitely be able to hear it. After saying that, Yin closed his eyes and chuckled after a few seconds. You must be blessing me, right? Finally, he opened his eyes, lowered his head and knocked again, and finally left the room reluctantly. Ji Qing was standing outside the door. It was the first time she saw sadness on Yan's face, and she couldn't help but feel sad. What's wrong? Yan asked. No, I just feel sad for you. Ji Qing whispered. It's okay. Yan took a long breath and said, okay, let's practice boxing. After practicing, take a nap and set off. He gave a soft drink and walked towards the basement. In just a moment, all negative emotions disappeared and he was a completely different person. His mood changes were so fast that Ji Qing thought that Yan would never be sad or cry, but would only laugh, work hard, and move forward. In the basement, Yan concentrated on practicing divine comedy. Talents have runes, as do martial arts skills. When a person fully understands a martial arts, a skill rune will appear around the talent rune. Skill runes revolve around talent runes. The higher the realm, the more skills it can carry. One for each big realm. This is also the reason why infinite geniuses don't learn many skills in the early stage. Because skill runes will take up space, you have to give up after learning them, which is a waste of time. What's more, learning skills is difficult. Some people may get it right. Some people may spend a month or two practicing hard and still not understand it. If you are unlucky, it could take 4 or 5 months. For an infinite genius, spending 7 or 8 hours a day practicing skills for so many months is completely unacceptable. Everyone is working hard to break through. If you waste a day, the progress of breaking through will be slower. The little things add up to the big things. When everyone meets each other, if you are a small level below others, it will be difficult to beat other people of the same age. The result is out. There is no place for you in the human king's palace. Yan also understands this. Logically speaking, he should cultivate alone. Just like Zhang Sanfeng said, when the time comes when you compete for resources, you won't be fighting for breadth, but height. Only when the realm is the same will we fight for breadth. The realms are different. Your strength is low and you cannot withstand the output of others. No matter how much physical strength you have, it is meaningless. But Yan still chooses fellow practitioners in the 3 realms. Moreover, there cannot be too big a gap in the progress of these 3 realms. Because this is related to one of his trump cards. This trump card gives him the confidence to stand out from the crowd. So for Yan, the most important thing is to break through. He didn't spend much time understanding the divine comedy at all. The only thing I want to do is rush into the realm. He was also very anxious in the past 2 days. He wants 3 copies of the infinite evolution fluid from the league champion. But this means that his realm will be stuck at the peak of the 3rd realm for 2 months. For the sake of the future, he chose to endure it. So the 3 evolutionary fluids that Ji Qing took out were completely a timely help. At this moment, Yan's level began to rise steadily. Each great realm is divided into 4 stages. Elementary, middle, late, and perfect. 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. There will be a small hurdle at each stage, which will bring about a small transformation. Moreover, the higher the progress, the slower the practice. Tonight, Yan practiced non-stop. Spirit, element, same. All 3 realms reached 2% of the 4th realm. Moreover, in addition to his talent runes, there is also an incomplete skill rune floating around. There is only the first stroke of the word wind, which means that the wind rises is suitable for beginners. If fully formed, Yan no longer needs to concentrate on using skills like today. He can open the runes with his eyes closed and the skills will be released automatically. But if it remains unformed, this stroke may fall apart. Yan didn't care at all. Let's talk about breaking the situation. Anything else? Episode 35. Arriving at Hell Mars. Early the next morning, Yan ordered breakfast for Ji Qing early. Although her body temperature was normal, she still seemed unable to sleep. She practiced boxing all night and was not tired when she woke up during the day. Yan asked Ji Qing, "Still can't sleep?" But Ji Qing just replied, "I'm not sleepy." Her thoughts could not escape Yan's eyes. Ji Qing was actually a little sleepy and could sleep. But she didn't dare to sleep. She was afraid that when she woke up, she would be the same broken and cold person again. Yian didn't say much, he was quite casual. If she wants to vomit blood, then vomit. If she wants to eat, she can. She won't sleep if she doesn't want to. It's not that I don't care, but that I don't want to interfere with other people's personal will. If anyone else had seen Ji Qing vomiting blood and eating at the same time, they would have been looking for a doctor in a panic. Only a weirdo like Yian sleeps peacefully aside. Yian feels that his personality is related to his father. Growing up, his father's education method for him was to be free-ranging. You can do whatever you want, there is only one bottom line, don't hurt others. Then, Yian and Ji Qing boarded the spaceship and left their hometown. This was Yian's first time riding a spaceship, and he was a little nervous. Li Tang got him a military ID card. If Yian encounters something he doesn't understand, he can directly ask passers-by. Before asking, he can show his identity by showing his military ID. Good guy. Everyone's faces were full of goodwill, and a special waiter came from behind to help Yian and Ji Qing check in. His attitude was extremely good, and his voice was extremely sweet. This is how border soldiers are treated. Yian didn't feel a trace of embarrassment or discrimination, but felt relaxed. Ji Qing always lowered her head and pulled Yian's sleeve. She was a little afraid of society, but fortunately there were few people today and the entire boarding hall was quiet. Finally, the two boarded the ship successfully. The destination, Suzaku Hell Mars. The competition point for the Super League is on another planet, far away from Hell Mars. If Lin Zhou wants to reach the top 5,000, he has to go through more than 40 days of competition. For more than 40 days, Yian has been practicing in Prison Mars. There is one of the 5 miracles on this planet, the Temple of Hellfire. Hellfire is a wonderful fire. It has no entity, but it still has a burning effect and has strong penetration. The skin cannot stop it at all. Once you step into the prison fire, your internal organs will burn. Many people have died in the Temple of Hellfire, ranking 3rd among the 5 miracles. Everyone knows that this is a land of death, but they still come here one after another, because since the 5 miracles can be named as gods, it is all because this place has the opportunity to change their destiny. There are 4 benefits to practicing here. 1. When you step on the hellfire, the absorption efficiency of the herbal medicine will be slightly improved, and the entry speed will be faster. 2nd, exercise your will. 3rd, it is easier to master difficult skills. 4. Get hellfire. The 4th point is the biggest reason for madness. All elements in the world have different levels. Ji Qing's ice element is the leader of all ices, and hellfire is the overlord of fire. Ignore any physical body, close to absolute penetration. Any defense means is useless in the face of hellfire. This feature is enough to make people lose their minds. But it's a pity that those who have mastered the fire of hell from ancient times to the present have only 5 fingers. Only 2 are known to people. For generations of kings. Vulcan. It is said that there are still several heroic-level human emperors who possess hellfire, but these are no longer within the reach of mortals. According to the 4th-generation human king, hellfire has life. He lives lazily in this paradise that belongs to him alone, overlooking one after another people who overestimate their abilities and challenge themselves. Only those who impress him will have the chance to gain his favor and master his power. As for how to impress him? All one can think of is setting an impossible task and then completing it. This is the origin of the 5 miracles. But the previous few powerful men who broke the historical record of the 5 miracles were not recognized by any of the gods of law. Since the god of fire 8,000 years ago, no one has been able to master this all-penetrating flame. It seems that the road ahead is dead. There are also rumors that he is left with the god of fire, and that the hellfire has no effect. But this is still an excellent place to practice. The entry speed is accelerated, the skills are easily learned, the will is exercised, and there is also the glory after breaking the record of 5 miracles. Yian only cares about these 4 points, whether the hellfire love will come or not. Anyway, I have the supreme fist. At this time, Yian looked down. The entire planet is the color of black and red hellfire. There is not a single bit of green vegetation visible on the surface of the planet. It is all hellfire magma that can be seen but cannot be touched. Yian looked up and saw that there were only 2 or 3 people scrawled on the spaceship, all of whom were martial arts masters who came to practice. A middle-aged warrior suddenly shivered and felt a little timid. He was debating whether to turn around and go back. This planet looked too scary, right? Will you die if you walk on this? Soon, the captain of the spacecraft made an announcement. The general meaning is that the spacecraft will land at the airbase later. If you don't want to go down, you can wait for a while and the spacecraft will return. Everyone, do your best. The captain travels on this route every day and has seen many people come, but he also knows that many people come and never go back. Moreover, the captain walked up to Yian and said seriously, "Young man. You are so young and have such a beautiful wife. It would be nice to have a look at the airbase." After hearing this, Ji Qing lowered her head with an unknown expression. Yian quickly explained, "She is just my friend." "Who are you lying to?" The captain chuckled, then turned to look out the window and said, "My friend came to die with you, and you didn't blink an eye?" At last. After a while, the spaceship landed successfully. Yian and Ji Qing walked out of the spaceship. The moment when both feet are on base in the air. The heat wave is coming. Yian frowned slightly and looked at Ji Qing aside. "How do you feel?" Ji Qing shook her head in confusion and said, "I don't feel anything." Hearing this, Yian chuckled and was certain of something. He looked up and saw few people on the street, and he could see the registration point for the miracle of hellfire at a glance. "Step forward." A middle-aged man set up an easy chair and lay on it, snoring. Yian tapped the counter lightly. The man opened his eyes and glanced at Yian and Ji Qing. The next second, he straightened up suddenly, watching Ji Qing's face change slightly, and then looked at Yian, lowering his head and thinking for a few seconds. Finally, he stood up and walked out of the counter, then gently pressed a button on the wall. Four big words suddenly appeared on the sign-up window for the miracle of hellfire, "No reception at the moment." Yian was stunned and said, "You." "Let me introduce myself first." The middle-aged man clasped his hands behind his back and said calmly, "My name is Whaleyan, the Whale of Whales." He looked at the two. The boys and girls didn't respond and nodded blankly. Whaleyan rubbed the back of his head, thinking that he had lived too long and no one knew him anymore. Ahem. Jingnian suddenly walked up to Yian and whispered, "Why is your highness by your side?" Yian also responded in a low voice, "The Generalissimo asked her to come to me. Say I'm her antidote." "You?" Jingnian's face was full of astonishment, and then he glanced at Yian up and down, as if to say, "How good and capable is your kid?" Suddenly, he pointed at Yian's eyebrows. A strange power rose at his fingertips. Ji Qing's eyes narrowed. Yian was stunned and felt comfortable. This time, it was Jingnian's turn to change his expression and said, "Dream? Your surname is Yi?" "Yes." Yian nodded and asked curiously, "Do you know me?" Jingning said with a smile, "Who in Gao Tianyu doesn't know you?" All talent detectors are directly connected to the Human World Data Library. So when you test your talent, everyone will know that another dream has appeared in this world, and he is a descendant of Tianwen. I just heard that you had a bad temper. At that time, Lao Lu dragged you to go to Gao Tianyu. You cried, made trouble, and hung yourself. You refused to leave. Everyone has nothing to do with you. I didn't expect you to run out on your own at the age of 18. It's been 6 years, and I've just broken through the 4th level. I'm already falling behind. Episode 36. The Secret of Hellfire. Isn't this just to catch up on progress? Yian lowered his head and glanced at the land filled with hellfire. Jingnian nodded and said, "Does she want to go down with you?" It doesn't look like he's in good condition. Yian, look at herself. Ji Qing nodded and said, "I'll go." It's up to you. Whaleyan led the two of them to the edge of the sky base, where they could overlook most of the Hellmars. He straightened his expression, pointed his fingers and said loudly, "We are at the extreme point here, the temperature is the lowest. Go forward there, and the temperature will rise 1 level, reaching the level of the 4th realm." Then, Whaleyer's fingers kept pointing forward. The 3rd level can only be passed by the 5th level. The 4th level, the 6th realm. The 5th level, the 7th realm. The temperature of the entire Hellmars is divided into these 5 levels. The location of the 5th gear is the equator of Hellfire, the most difficult part of the Hellfire miracle trial. The temperature will drop as you go further, and until you come back here in a circle, the miracle is complete. Jing Yan continued, the realm I just mentioned is the threshold for ordinary people with average talents. For geniuses, this standard cannot be used. Yan asked curiously, what is the standard for genius? What are the standards for genius? Jing Yan sneered and said, if genius can be limited by a certain standard, is it still called a genius? Genius is meant to break standards. Yan frowned. The miracle of hellfire requires a 5th-level practitioner to circle the entire planet, but the temperature at the equator is so high that only people in the 7th level can tolerate it. Crossing 2 big realms. No wonder it's called a miracle. Then, Whale Nian continued, experiencing the miracle of hellfire is just the beginning. If you want to continue practicing, the direction you are going is not forward, but down. Whale Nian pointed towards his feet and said, if you can go around in a circle, I will take you underground. It is rumored that Hellfire himself lives in the center of the earth, but not many people can set foot in that area. I definitely can't do it anyway. Back to business. The miracle of Hellfire is actually an impossible task. Because the gap between great realms cannot be made up by talent. After all, after breaking through the realm, the intensity of your professional training will be doubled. What's more, it spans 2 major realms. So, if you want to pass the trial, you must rely on some special means. For example, Li He, do you know this person? Yan nodded quickly. Jing Yan said calmly, he will cross the Hellfire equator with speed. He must go faster than the burning speed of the Hellfire and pass through it before the Hellfire burns him. Yan asked doubtfully, isn't this a crooked way? Jing Ning said with a smile, first of all, no one in history can complete the miracle of hellfire in the upright way you have in mind. You think it's easy for Li He to cross the equator with his speed, right? On the contrary, if he can really do it, it will be the fastest in history. Secondly, that little swordsman who doesn't like using swords is not here to practice his will. He only practices speed. The 5 miracles are all used by him to train his speed. He never cares about other aspects. Yan thought, could it still be like this? Jing Yan smiled and said, the reason why this world is interesting is that you can do anything. Ordinary people are always limited by what other people think. Everyone practices whatever we say hellfire is for. It's actually a bit boring. What do you think? Hearing this, Yan's eyes moved slightly. Does this imply that my rumor is true? He glanced at Whale Nian, his eyes subtle. Whale Nian didn't think so much at all. He felt that Yan was also arrogant and wanted to be an extraordinary person. Okay, that's all that needs to be said. Is there anything else you want to ask? Yan suddenly asked, is there any money-making project here? Making money? Jing Yan was startled and said, with His Highness here, are you still short of money? She is not mine, and her money is not my money. Yan said seriously. It's quite interesting. Jing Ning laughed and said, of course there are money-making projects. Blackfire mines grow on Hellmars. Every piece is priced very high, but it's just hard to find. If you can get a few dozen yuan, it will definitely be enough for you to practice. But it's illegal to collect black fire or privately. Did you bring your qualification ticket? Yan nodded quickly and took out the coupon Li He gave him. Then go on. Whale Nian collected the coupons and turned to leave. Yan looked down at the earth filled with hellfire and said to Ji Qing, then let's go down. Ji Qing nodded heavily. Then, the two jumped out of the fence in one step and fell freely. Jing Yan was startled, turned around and shouted, there is an elevator. But the two of them were gone. Finally, Jing Yan smiled dumbly, took out his star platform, and sent a message to Lu Shuyuan. Yan showed up here. Then that brat doesn't stay in that corner anymore? Yes, don't you come and take a look? Oh, I wasted 6 years. There is nothing good to see. It is destined to be mediocre. Lu Shuyuan was helpless, but in the end he decided to go and see what the child he had tried his best to take away 6 years ago had done in the past 6 years. At the same time, Yan crashed to the ground. The moment he landed, his expression changed slightly, and the raging heat wave instantly submerged into his body. He was not mentally prepared for the first time and showed pain on his face. He had only heard that hellfire could burn the internal organs. Although he had tried to practice in a dream, but now he saw that his practice was very different from the actual feeling. It's like being dissected into a piece of cake and being baked at high temperature in a microwave oven. But soon, his eyes condensed and he straightened up suddenly. There was no longer any pain on his face, and his expression was calm. At this time, he suddenly noticed that Ji Qing beside him had no expression. "How do you feel?" Ji Qing suddenly squatted down, gently touched the ground with her palms, and said doubtfully, "It's ice cold." "What?" Yian was surprised. "Cold?" "Yes, I feel nothing." Ji Qing shook her head blankly. She didn't know what was going on. Before coming down, she was afraid that the hellfire would burn her. Did not expect. "It's not hot at all." Yian's heart suddenly trembled. He looked up at the airbase. Above. Jing Nian raised his eyebrows and his mind moved slightly. It seems that Yian did a lot of homework before coming. He has experienced hellfire and knows what the flames burn. Since hellfire is used to exercise willpower, that flame actually hurts the spiritual will. Yian's expression did not change. It shows that his willpower is strong enough to suppress the first stage of hellfire. But Wei Nian suddenly felt a little distressed. He looked at His Highness's innocent eyes and thought, Yian was in pain for the first time. "Where was your highness?" "No feeling at all." Episode 37. Regret, doubt. On the earth. Yian said seriously, "I want to go directly to the third gear to find the black fire mine. Do you want to come with me?" Ji Qing was suddenly startled, turned her head and looked into the distance, saying, "It seems like someone is calling me." "Ah." Yian was confused. "It's right there." Ji Qing pointed forward. "Then go and have a look." Yian didn't hesitate and rushed forward quickly. Mars is not that big, but it is still a planet. Moreover, no supplements are allowed here, only cultivation resources and a ring containing black fire ore. Yian's remaining belongings are placed in the hands of Jing Nian. Therefore, all he and Ji Qing could rely on were their legs and the energy in their bodies, but it was difficult to recover the source energy and mental power in their bodies. At this moment, Yian suddenly realized how terrifying the miracle of hellfire was. He felt like he was walking on an endless sea of magma and fire. There is no end in sight. The end point is not visible at all. How long will it take? Totally no idea. There is only one thing he can do. Go ahead. Yian raised his feet and Ji Qing quickly started running forward. "I don't feel anything in the first gear, so I go directly to the second gear." Jing Nian in the sky smiled and felt that Yian was too reckless. "Really?" 3 days later. Yian sat on the ground covered in sweat, breathing heavily and looking confused. "Not in second gear yet? Did I go astray?" "No." Ji Qing on the side is in pretty good condition. The amount of source energy in her body is so huge that it can't be used up. At the airbase, Lu Shuyuan has arrived. His appearance was seriously inconsistent with his name. He was a thick, rough man wearing a vest, shorts and slippers, with a cigarette in his mouth. Lu Shuyuan looked at Yian, took a deep breath, and then sighed out the smoke and sound, as expected. The gap with other peers is already obvious. Jing Nian on the side asked curiously, why didn't he leave back then? He said he was gone and Grandpa was alone at home, and he couldn't accept it. Wouldn't it be nice to take his grandpa to Gaotian territory as well? The boy didn't want to. He didn't trust us at all. He said that he was the only pillar of his family. Gao Tianyu is so big and there are so many powerful people. What if his grandfather is bullied? This. Jing Nian looked complicated and said, "We are here, how could his grandfather be bullied?" Lu Shuyuan said quietly, "In short, he doesn't trust us at all and only trusts his own fists. The biggest reason why I gave up. I remember it very clearly. I told him that there is a price to pay for being willful. If you have not accepted the best things during these years of golden age, you will definitely be weaker than your peers, not even a little bit worse." He told me that Tianshui City is his home. My grandfather has lived here for decades since he was a child. He has worked hard to support his family for decades. In his later years, he has to move to a strange place. In the end, he may not be able to return to his roots. He cannot accept it. I told him that just letting your grandfather suffer a little injustice can give you a bright future, which is worth it. He said he wanted it all. He didn't want Grandpa to suffer any injustice, but he also wanted a bright future. He said it very seriously and firmly. I never thought that a 12-year-old child could speak so loudly. So I left. Jing Yan suddenly asked, do you think he will regret it in the future? Lu Shuyuan shook his head, who knows? 2 more days passed. Yan finally reached the second gear. After crossing the critical point, the heat wave around him suddenly became extremely intense, and the high temperature impacted Yan's mind. Yan closed his eyes tightly, lowered his head and took a deep breath, mobilizing the energy in his body to convert into water element. The elements swept through his body, and his originally dry lips suddenly became moist, and Yan's condition recovered to 70%. He keeps going. But Lu Shuyuan still looked unhappy. If hard power doesn't work, can we only rely on strategy? This is even more regrettable, because he is completely telling himself that he is a natural strategist. He could have stood at the highest point of a certain war zone with great grace, sitting on that side and being powerful. What a pity. Lu Shuyuan's eyes were filled with regret. If Yan was just an infinite level, Lu Shuyuan wouldn't be so worried. But Yan is a descendant of Yi Tianwan, so his talent is still a dream. People expect too much from him. As long as he is half as capable as Yi Tianwan, it will be enough for the human race to continue to move forward. Below. Yan is still moving forward. At this time, he noticed that there were already shadows of black fire mines around him. He was ready to collect. What about you? Yan asked Ji Qing. She doesn't need these resources. Ji Qing thought for a moment and said, I'll keep going. The voice calling me became more and more obvious. Yan nodded and separated from him temporarily. He didn't think anything would happen to Ji Qing. Jing Yan was obviously not an ordinary person. He also knew that it was His Highness and he would definitely protect Ji Qing. So Yan began his career as a miner. Mine as you move forward. Another 5 days passed. A strong sense of hunger surged into Yan's heart. His willpower began to decline. But Yan still didn't panic at all. He drank some water first, then directly picked up a piece of black fire ore and stuffed it into his mouth. Then he grabbed the dirt on the ground and opened his mouth to eat. Huh? On the airbase, Lu Shuyuan and Jing Yan were both stunned. Can it be eaten? Strictly speaking, it is edible. Both the black fire mine and the soil here are rich in nutrients, which can at least maintain a person's vital signs. What shocked them was nature. So natural. Yan's actions of eating minerals and dirt seemed to have been practiced countless times. There was no trace of confusion or hesitation on his face. He stuffed it into his mouth as if he were eating. There was no emotion, as if he was doing something ordinary. But black fire ore is very hard. Yan bit it several times before crushing it and swallowing it. And, feeling that one was not full enough, he added another one. After more than 10 minutes, he stood up contentedly, touched his belly, and moved on. At this point, Yan has reached the second level of interruption. His condition has hardly declined and is maintained very well. This made a glimmer of expectation appear in the eyes of Jing Yan and Lu Shuyuan. Yan was a little bit beyond their expectations. Another 5 days passed. Yan mined 28 pieces of black fire ore, 8-5, and had 23 pieces left in his hand, and reached the dividing line of the third gear. His pace did not slow down and he walked over step by step. Without any preparation, everything was naturally beyond the expectations of the two people above. Episode 38. He is still moving forward. The moment Yan stepped into the third level of Hellfire Realm. The heat wave around him doubled in intensity, as if it had taken on physical form. Above. Lu Shuyuan and Jing Yan both looked nervous. Because the third level normally requires people from the fifth realm to step into it. Yan has just reached the fourth level. Although he is a genius, he cannot be judged by common sense. But everyone is still a little worried. Yan closed his eyes and seemed to be feeling something. The next second, he sneered and opened his eyes. Did his eyes change? Lu Shuyuan looked attentively. In people's impression, Yan is a cheerful big brother next door, very optimistic and positive, always with a smile on his face. But at this moment, Yan's eyes became a little intriguing. 7 points of coldness and 3 points of disdain, as if he has entered another state and become another kind of person. Keep paying attention to the two of them. Yian strode forward, his expression unchanged. His willpower was actually strong enough to suppress the third stage of the Hellfire Offensive. Lu Shuyuan's eyes became more condensed. At this moment, Yi An's performance has exceeded the average of the top geniuses of today. At least in terms of willpower, not many people in the contemporary infinite level can walk on the third level of Hellfire so easily. At this time, a smile appeared on Yi An's face. Because there are more black fire mines here. He no longer moved straight forward, and began to completely transform into a miner, looking for ore everywhere. In 5 days, he collected more than 60 black fire ores, and 1 concentrated black fire ore. The latter was 100 times more expensive than the former. Very profitable. At this time, Yian saw another concentrated black fire ore. He walked forward quickly. Suddenly, a burst of footsteps sounded in Yian's ears. He turned his head sharply and looked. He saw a young man with yellow hair looking at him coldly. Yian was surprised. It had been less than half a month since he set foot on Hellmars, and he met someone for the first time. Moreover, the other person may be about the same age as me, but there is a deep scar at the corner of his eye, as if he was cut with a knife. The yellow-haired boy stared at Yian, took a deep breath, and was about to speak. Yian suddenly picked up the concentrated black fire ore and asked, "Do you really need this thing?" Huang Mao was startled. He originally wanted to say that I discovered this black fire mine first. He was ready to compete with the opponent here. I never thought that this genius of the same age as myself would say such strange things. Do I need it? Yes, I need it very much. What? Huang Mao was very nervous, his eyes full of hostility and gloom. Yian chuckled lightly, threw the black fire ore away, and said, "I don't really need it." After that he left. Huang Mao stayed there alone, looking at the black fire ore in his hand, his eyes full of astonishment, and he couldn't even recover for a while. He couldn't understand Yi An's behavior just now, and his brain was a little confused. Finally, he looked up in Yi An's direction, frowning. But Yi An was nowhere to be seen, so he had no choice but to turn around and dig in another direction. Airbase. Lu Shuyuan felt a little regretful and said, "We didn't even start a fight." Jing Yan on the side was confused and said, "Yi An just sent it away casually? Could it be that he senses the strength of the other party and doesn't dare to compete with Mu Kuang?" Lu Shuyuan said calmly, "Yi An is a natural war strategist. He should have another purpose in coming here. Perhaps he thought that wasting a lot of physical energy by arguing with Mu Kuang over a mine would affect his ability to achieve his goal." That makes sense. Jing Yan nodded silently. Only the 2 young men below knew whether their guesses were right or wrong. At this moment, Yi An's mind was filled with Mu Kuang's eyes. Gloomy and harsh, this is the appearance. Behind those eyes was hostility, even fear, towards the world. Yi An's most powerful ability is observation. He could see the situation of the yellow-haired boy at a glance. The other party is very poor and needs money. But this is very contradictory. Because Huang Mao is probably also an infinite level. How can I be short of money at the infinite level? Like yourself, don't want to follow the big shots in Yao Tianyu? Continue reasoning. The scar on his face is deep, long-lasting, and a little crooked. If a normal person is stabbed, the scar will never be crooked because the blade is straight. There is only one possibility. The scar on Huang Mao's face was left when he was young. As his face grew older, the scar became slanted. I was hacked when I was a child, so I was afraid of the world and didn't trust anyone. His yellow hair and those vicious eyes are used to protect himself. Children like this need help. So Yian believed that it was just a mine, so just give it. Of course, he could only deduce the appearance. He couldn't guess Huang Mao's real-life experience. If the other party is strong enough, they will meet again in the future. A house that accumulates good deeds will always be happy. After Yian gave away the ore, he picked up 2 larger concentrated black fire ores. Then, a few more days passed. Yian already has 200 black fire ores and 8 concentrated black fire ores. This number is already staggering. He figured it was almost done, it was time to move on. At this time, he has been in Hellmars for 20 days. I don't know if Lin Zhou lost or won. But there is not much time left for him. He must appear in the Super League in 12 days. These 12 days. He's going to do big things. Yian stood outside the fourth Hellfire Gate, his eyes changing again. There is no longer any sunlight. Completely cold, as if he has become a completely different person. After taking a deep breath, he stepped out and entered the fourth level of Hellfire. In just a moment, he staggered to the bottom, kneeling on one knee and covering his head, his pupils were bloodshot. The intensity of the Hellfire here is twice that of the third level. 8 times the first gear. Everyone has a critical point in their endurance. After that point, it only takes one straw to crush a person. At this moment, Yi An's willpower could no longer suppress the intensity of the fourth level of Hellfire. Veins popped up all over his body, he was convulsing slightly unconsciously, his physical energy was also declining crazily, and white mist kept spitting out of his mouth. In the air base. The eyes of Jing Yan and Lu Xiaoyuan completely changed. Because Yi and below actually made a choice that was beyond their expectations. Almost everyone, like Yian, whose will instantly collapses after stepping into the fourth gear, will instinctively take a step back and return to the third gear. Yian didn't. He roared and stood up, the blood in his eyes was like flames, and there was still endless flames in front of him. He stepped forward. Every step is difficult. But very determined. He's still moving forward? Lu Shuyuan's heart skipped a beat. This is a pain that can only be endured by the normal sixth realm. Yian has just reached the fourth realm now. His willpower strength has exceeded 99.9% of his peers. On the side, Jing Yan couldn't help but smile. Finally, I feel like a genius. Suddenly, he changed the subject and said, "Do you have a feeling?" Lu Shuyuan frowned and nodded heavily. Have. Cheerful sunshine seems to be a false mask. This Yian is the real him at this moment. Episode 39. Mysterious Purpose. Standing in the inferno of fourth gear. Yian only felt the overwhelming black and red flames roaring wantonly in his body, burning his internal organs, meridians, and even his brain. A strong burning sensation filled the whole body, and the extreme pain impacted Yian's will strings. His eyes were sometimes dazed, sometimes firm, but there was no fear. At this time, he took out the herbs for cultivating the physical realm and poured them into his mouth. In great pain, his physical progress began to increase rapidly. 2.1%, 2.2%, 2.3%. An increase of 0.1 percentage points in 1 minute. 10 minutes is 1%. 100 minutes is 10%. 3 hours to directly break through a small realm. This speed of cultivation is no different from riding a rocket. But it's not outrageous. Because the way of martial arts cannot be broken or established. The more extreme the pain you endure, the better the polishing effect, and the faster the efficacy of the herbal medicine will be exerted. At this moment, Yi An's body was on the verge of collapse. There is a very interesting saying that the human body is very lazy. He usually doesn't bother to move his mouth to absorb excess nutrients. Even if he absorbs it, he doesn't bother to remove the harmful impurities in the herbs. He just wants to be alive. He is the ultimate spoiler. But when that person is in a half-dead state, the body will become anxious, and its red eyes will start to absorb everything around it crazily in order to survive. People's potential is forced out. At this moment, Yian not only absorbed the herbs very quickly, but also eliminated impurities at an absurd speed. 10 minutes later, Yian walked forward more than 200 meters, and his physical realm increased by 1%. The whale year in the sky frowned. He clearly saw that although Yian's face was a little ferocious, he seemed to be smiling ferociously. He stared straight ahead, as if there was some invisible enemy standing in front of him. This enemy is extremely powerful, which makes Yian extremely excited. This character is so good. Facing the dilemma of the fourth level of Hellfire, he didn't show any cowardice or timidity at all. Instead, he was a little excited. He seemed to be expecting something. You should be expecting the purpose of his coming here. But what is his purpose? Lu Shuyuan and Jing Yan, the two human generals, had both determined that Yian did not choose a training point randomly. He must have his own special purpose for coming to Hell Mars, but the two of them can't see it yet. At this time, Lu Shuyuan frowned subconsciously. No matter what his purpose is, the problem is that Yian is already close to the limit. This is dangerous. Everyone has 3 stages when fighting. The first one is the normal combat state. The second is to completely enter the combat state, transcend the combat state, and reach a state of mindlessness with no distracting thoughts. Yin was in this state at the moment, his eyes completely focused on one point. Although there is no enemy standing in front of him. But he was facing a certain enemy without any distractions. The third state is a state that many people only experience once in their lifetime. Extreme state. The moment a person feels the threat of death, his instinctive will to survive will activate everything in his body. The power in this person's body will explode without reservation. Generally, people who enter this state will either die or be disabled later on. There are two opinions. One is that the human body is too weak and cannot withstand majestic force. Therefore, the upper limit of our human power has always been suppressed by our own shortcomings. Powerful races with the same efforts, the same resources, and the same realm, they just have more power. The extreme state is just a way for a person to have the power he should have. Another statement is completely opposite, believing that the extreme state is a unique talent of the human species. Some scholars have come up with many papers to prove that the difference in strength between humans and demons is only 10% if they are in the same realm, have the same resources, and have the same talent. Humans are 10% lower than demons. But once humans turn on their extreme state, they will surpass the demons by 10%. Many scholars have argued about this. The biggest reason is that there are not enough data samples. The human race is very different from other races, and the resources they have used since childhood are also different. It is almost impossible to find two creatures of different races, but the realm, talent, resources used since childhood, and the usual training intensity are exactly the same. But there is a data. In the duel between humans and demons, when humans are pushed to their limit, the winning rate is as high as 72.9%. But the fatality rate is 27%. The disability rate is as high as 59%. So no one can tell clearly whether the extreme state is a gift or a curse. At this moment, Yin was approaching his limit. He has a 60% disability rate and a 30% fatality rate. Doesn't he know this himself? Do you want to take action? Lu Shuyuan asked, frowning. Lu Shuyuan stared at Yin silently. I do not know. Yin shouldn't understand things about extreme states, right? It should be taught in textbooks in those small cities, right? What's more, a person will know how to run away when he is in pain. Yin knew that there were tigers in the mountains and chose to go to the Tiger Mountains. Could this be his purpose? Do not mind him. Suddenly, an indifferent and majestic voice sounded in their ears. Lu Shuyuan was startled. However, Jingyan quickly bowed his head and said, yes. Whose voice is it? Lu Shuyuan couldn't help but ask. Do you think anyone else here is so powerful? Jingyan asked. Prison. Hellfire true god? Lu Shuyuan had a look of disbelief on his face. Whale Nian nodded slightly. Now, the rumor about Hellfire God leaving with Vulcan God has been broken. The boss has been staying at home and not going anywhere. 5 minutes before this voice appeared. In the middle of the equator. A tall shadow made of hellfire floated next to a girl. Good boy, did you listen to what I just said? Hellfire True God asked. This natural-born fire god, who had always been proud, looked at Ji Qing with very gentle eyes at this moment. Ji Qing nodded slightly and said, I know, if the curse of ice and snow comes, you can use your power to resist death. But there will be side effects, so it's best not to use it. Yes. Hellfire True God breathed a sigh of relief. Sudden. Ji Qing turned around and smiled, thank you. You're welcome. Hellfire God shook his head and said, you are the most special child I have ever seen. You shouldn't have lived to this age, but you happen to be in front of me again. I see some kind of power in you, which is beneficial to the way I cultivate. I am lucky to meet you. Ji Qing suddenly said, then can you give him the power you left for me? Ji Qing turned around and pointed at Yin. The Hellfire True God looked at Yin, who was struggling on the fourth gear in confusion, and said, he? You like him? Episode 40. Come on, Destiny. The Hellfire God couldn't help but said, girl, I want to remind you. A player of his caliber can only make a difference in this generation. Putting it in the long river of history, it is just an insignificant pebble. But you are different, you are expected to become the lord of 10,000 ices. Hearing this, Ji Qing lowered her head and chuckled, saying, Sir, it turns out that you can also make mistakes. Do you approve of him so much? Hellfire God frowned, with some displeasure in his eyes, thinking that this girl was completely in love. Ji Qing shook her head and said, Actually, like you, I thought he was weak before. But it wasn't until one day when I discovered something that I realized that everyone had been deceived by his bright and sunny face. In fact, I don't need to speak for him. You will recognize him soon. Really? Hellfire True God said indifferently, Isn't he just cultivating under the pressure of hellfire now? The only special thing is that we are fellow practitioners in the third realm. This doesn't mean anything. Hellfire God is in a hurry. Normally he wouldn't bother to defend himself, time would tell. But in his eyes, Ji Qing is a perfect gem. This gem has been tempered by the divine punishment of heaven and earth for 18 years, and it is still alive. This should not be the key. No one is willing to die, so everyone will try their best to live. I have seen many such children myself. But their eyes are qualitatively different from Ji Qing's. Although those children are trying hard to live, there is despair deep in their eyes. They do not believe that they can really live, and they are just lingering. Where is Ji Qing? She can still smile happily, there is no fear of heaven and earth in her eyes, she truly believes that she can win and survive. This mentality is too scary. Her opponent is not human. It's heaven. Facing the sky, she was fearless. This is something that even this old guy with the name of God cannot do. She did it. How could such a child be dragged down by such mediocre people? The Hellfire God became more and more angry as he thought about it, and the flames all over his body were rolling. Ji Qing saw the thoughts of the Hellfire God. This old man has no big ideas, his thoughts are written on his face. She said softly, Actually, the strength you see in me, it doesn't come from me, but him. Ji Qing pointed at Yan and said with a smile, Before I met him, I was no different from the remnants of the previous generation. I didn't believe that I could survive. I even think that I shouldn't have been born. The true god of hellfire didn't want to hear it, waved his hand and said, There is no need to defend him. It's a mule or a horse, you'll know just by looking at it. Ji Qing nodded heavily and said, Okay. Don't let anyone disturb him. So the Hellfire God told Jing Yan and Lu Xiaoyuan that there was no need to interfere. At the same time, Yan has walked more than 1,000 meters. Blood began to flow from his face and his eyes were numb. This made the three strong men who were watching him feel a little confused. Why is he still moving forward? As long as he is still in the 4th gear and has not reached the 5th gear, the effect of training will be the same no matter where he stands. The only difference is that he can no longer escape from the moment of death and return to 3rd gear. The true god of hellfire sneered, Do you want to use death to push yourself to your limit? He has seen many children like this, they are just trying to get their own power. At this moment, Yan came to a distance of 1,500 meters. The progress of his 3 realms has reached 5%. Sudden. His distracted eyes suddenly solidified, staring straight ahead. I saw him taking a deep breath in pain, with a ferocious look on his face, lowering his head and roaring angrily. Start running. This scene shocked the 3 people present. Starting to run? Does this mean anything? This will only consume his physical energy to a greater extent. The Hellfire God shook his head in disdain, he had seen such a scene before. Soon, Yan ran 500 meters and was already a full 2,000 meters away from the dividing line of the 3rd gear. Sudden. His whole body twitched, his legs went weak, and he was thrown to the ground in a panic. This moment. On the air base. Lu Shuyuan looked ugly and said, We have entered the ultimate state. Yi An's body suddenly burst out with majestic power, supporting him to stand up with difficulty. Then, Yan looked up, and his face appeared in front of everyone. In an instant, the Hellfire True God narrowed his eyes. He finally saw something interesting. This kid is laughing. Laughing ferociously. Is this just to attract my attention? What on earth does he want to do? In the airbase, Lu Shuyuan was a little restless and wanted to rescue Yi An quickly. Extreme state, either death or disability. 30% will be killed, 60% will be disabled, and only 10% will be left intact. But the 10% of people who can survive are all the best among men. The reason why they were able to escape from the extreme state was not because of their natural abilities, but because they had been undergoing extreme state-like training in the high heaven realm since they were young. Because this state can make people stronger, everyone hopes to use this power. So the reason why those 10% of people were able to escape unscathed is because they have experience. Does Yan have it? 3 minutes. Lu Shuyuan looked down at the time. In Yan's current state, he would die suddenly if he could sustain the extreme state for at least 3 minutes. So he decided to take action in 1 minute. Soon, 50 seconds passed. Yan ran wildly for 800 meters, with dense cracks appearing on his body, but his eyes were as tough as ever. Lu Shuyuan is ready to save people. I told you not to move, came the cold and stern voice of the true god of hellfire. I'm here, nothing will happen to him. Lu Shuyuan gritted his teeth and took a step back, helpless. At this moment, the eyes of the hellfire true god were a little serious. He really wanted to know what this guy was going to do. There was something wrong with his eyes, as if he was waiting and expecting. It seems that there is a kind of oppression that no one else can feel is about to be released at this moment. The time comes to 2 minutes. Yan's face was already a little distorted. His running speed began to slow down, but he was already 3,300 meters away from the third gear. Then. Arrive in 3 minutes. Lu Shuyuan's heart trembled and he murmured, "It's over." Yan fell to the ground. It seemed that his body could no longer support him to maintain his extreme state. He fell. 3, 2, 1. 3 seconds later. The true god of hellfire raised his head fiercely. Yan suddenly raised his weak fist and hit the ground, forcefully pushing himself up. He looked up at the sky, his voice hoarse and twisted. Right now. The next second. Kakaka. A burst of shattering sound sounded in everyone's ears. Lu Shuyuan's pupils suddenly shrank. The true god of hellfire also took a fierce step forward, but was stopped by Ji Qing. Don't help him. But. This time it was the hellfire god's turn to be confused. Because of the shattering sound. It's the sound of Yi Anling Mansion, spiritual power, and the shattering of the physical realm. He is going to be useless.